We're addressing this huge debate kind of that's been going on almost.
It's been all over my TikTok feed, my Instagram feed, my Facebook feed.
Mine too.
Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Arron.
And we post new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
On this episode, we're talking about the Marvelization of Hollywood.
And 3, 2, 1, action. I play like a different song, like in my head every time. It's not even the theme song anymore. It just
I know, and I play your song in my head. I go dun, dun, rather than our actual theme song.
It's drifted away from that.
Well, we don't really hear it in person very often.
I hear it all the time because I always listen to the episodes.
But we don't hear it while we're in here.
Quality assurance. But so today what we're talking about is we're addressing this huge debate kind of that's been going on, almost like this big hoopla that's been going on.
It's been all over my TikTok feed, my Instagram feed, my Facebook feed.
Mine too.
A bunch on YouTube stuff as well.
Yeah, to put it simply, the legendary director Quentin Tarantino made some statements about the state of Hollywood, about Marvel, their involvement, about like the idea of the movie star. And I have some direct quotes, but people are very upset. Some people vehemently agreeing with him, some people vehemently disagreeing, from the Joe on the street to all the way up to like Simu Liu and actual stars in Hollywood. So there's been all kinds of people making comments about this, but what did Quentin Tarantino actually say? So the context is he's in an interview / just like a fun podcast appearance on Two Bears, One Cave with Tom Segura. He's promoting his new book, which is somewhat autobiographical, and the concept of the Marvel movie comes up because they're talking about how Tom mentions how there's only so few true movie stars left, and they all seem to be working with Quentin Tarantino because I think two big names are obviously in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And in response to that, Quentin Tarantino says, part of the Marvelization of Hollywood is you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters, but they're not movie stars, right? Captain America is the star, or Thor is the star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. I think it's been said a zillion times, but it's like, it's these franchise characters that become a star. And so this is all, they're direct quotes, but they're from different points in context. He goes on to say, my only axe to grind against them is that they're the only things that seem to be made, and they're the only things that seem to generate any kind of excitement amongst the fan base or even the studio making them. That's what they're excited about. And so it's just the fact that they are the entire representation of this era of movies right now. There's not really much room for anything else. That's my problem. He also says specifically his issue is not with the actors or even the studio as a whole, but he says it's an issue of representation, and he doesn't feel that all forms of film are represented well. I mean, so to put it simply, if you watch the whole interview, I agree with a lot of things that he says separately. Now, he also says a lot of things that I disagree with. Like, he says that 80s are a terrible era for film, and I feel like that's like discounting all of John Hughes' work, which, like, come on, like Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, like, these are great movies. So I don't think the 80s is an era of dead film, but he also says a lot of things that I agree with. And the sentiment is not as egregious as some would have you believe in the headlines. But you watched the interview as well, right?
I did.
So what did you think about what he was saying?
Yeah, no, it makes sense from the perspective of someone who is making movies, or even someone who is acting in movies, that the only movies that are being made and blowing up the box office are mainly superhero movies. And what happens if you have a smaller budget, or if you want to tell a story that doesn't have any superheroes in it? Well, it's probably not going to perform as well at the box office right now.
Not only that, but getting it made, when you present your script to the studios, like it feels like it's almost a risk to not include an element of superheroes.
Basically, everyone's trying to compete with Marvel and trying to get their box office numbers, and I can see where he's coming from. As a viewer, I enjoy the superhero movies a lot.
Yeah, we both do,
But-
and that's a good point to make. Like, we're not just haters. We love all kinds of movies. I specifically wore the Spider-Man t-shirt today to illustrate the point that we are not anti-Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I have had a lot of fun watching all of these superhero movies and stuff. And he says in his podcast, this is kind of like something where him and I like maybe don't have the same viewpoints on things. He says he doesn't watch any like newer movies. He basically only watches stuff from like the 60s, 70s. He didn't like the 80s, some from the 90s, right? Like,
He said he loves the 90s, he loves the 70s, but he hates the 80s and hates the 50s, and he said it's only rivaled. This is another controversial thing he said those two eras, the 50s and the 80s, are terrible eras of film, only rivaled by now. So he says that now is another one of those like kind of recessions or great depressions of filming creativity, which I think is, like he said, he views it as a lack of representation.
it's kind of like a generation thing, you know, where like the previous generation is trashing the current generation, and maybe even vice versa, you know, like it's
The way,
not
like,
fair to make those like brash comments like that, you know, like I don't like watching old movies. Does that mean they're all bad? No. It just means that I just don't enjoy them as much, and I would rather watch a superhero movie, you know?
I think it has a lot to do, this thought process, like you said, with the generation bias. Like me, like I love the movies that came out when I was growing up. I used to love to rewatch Spider-Man 1 with Tobey and The Matrix. And like, even when I got older, like movies from early 2010s, like Inception, The Dark Knight, what else was I going to say? Django Unchained. Like, to me, movies that have come out in recent years do not compare to that. But those were the movies that I fell in love with when I was growing up. So maybe, you know, looking back 30 years from now, there's going to be some modern classics. But I think that I agree with the sentiment that on average, the state of cinema isn't like moving at the same pace creatively that it was, like with all this it's not just Marvel. I think there is the Marvel machine, but there's also just the greater machine of Hollywood that seems to have less confidence in new ideas, which is what I love to see in a movie like Inception, is like and that's what I trust from Christopher Nolan, is like a new crazy concept like Tenet, and he's not scared to do that, and studios aren't scared to invest in him because he's so proven. So like that marriage of like him as like the riskier filmmaker with his early work like Memento, like that's who he is. But now the confidence of studios to make blockbuster films with that same creativity. But like we don't see that so much with every director. Like so many sequels nowadays and so many franchises. Like let's bring Ghostbusters back. Let's make like 50 X-Men movies. Like I don't think there needs to be 9 Fast and the Furious, 9 Transformers movies. That's something that has always kind of frustrated me, when people's creative efforts could go into something new and risky, and even if it fails, you know, you could say that it was your own idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I think in the past 2 decades or so, even probably further, the highest grossing movies, a lot of them are part of a franchise. You know, like it's just kind of the way that it has been for a while now. Probably going all the way back to like Star Wars kind of being the first to really pave that trend, you know?
Yeah.
And then of course it doesn't help too that we had the pandemic 2-3 years ago now, and at that time movie theaters were dead. They were gone. You know, like no one was going to them. It wasn't even safe to go to them and all that stuff. And like I think Marvel had a big, huge part of reviving the movie theater experience. You know, like if Marvel wasn't around, like how would theaters have lasted through the pandemic?
I think that is where we come to the part of like it not just being Marvel's fault. I think probably even the biggest person to blame is like the general public, like us. Like if we're not going to pay money to go see, a foreign film or an avant-garde film, those aren't going to show up in theaters because they don't make money. If we're not going to see movies outside of the superhero realm, that's where studios get the idea to only have confidence in superhero films, is from us, whether we put our butts in the seats or not. So like the state of cinema revolves around like consumerism, like supply and demand. So we need to go and keep cinema alive. Like we need to keep different genres of movie alive. If we want them to exist, we need to go see westerns, we need to go see dramas, like we need to go see the new Jordan Peele film. It can't just be Marvel if we want theaters to succeed and we want ideas to flourish and spread.
And that's if you want these other things, you know, like you don't have to go watch anything really, but if you are complaining that like, hey, there's only superhero movies, well then go put your money where your mouth is and put it towards the things that you want to see more of. That way, like you were saying, studios and directors and even actors feel safer kind of investing in these one-off smaller projects or even bigger projects, but just an original idea.
Even the non-superhero projects that have been successful in recent years are still franchise properties. Like Top Gun made $1 billion and was in theaters for like 6 months. But that's kind of a franchise. It's a long departed sequel from the original Top Gun. I'm sure Avatar 2 will make $1 billion, but it's a
like
sequel.
Pulling from the previous generation to get them back into the theaters. But then our generation, the newer generation, is also interested in it too. Even if they didn't see the first one. Like, it's a very smart move to have kind of that huge gap in between sequels. And, like, you can't really do that with too many people other than Tom Cruise, you know, who doesn't age a day in his life.
Yeah. So one of the points that's heavily talked about here in this interview that we're discussing is the concept of the character being bigger than the actor. And I wanted to know what you think about that. Because my thought process is like, I talked about this in a TikTok that we made. You know, we've seen 3 different actors play Spider-Man, and we've seen it make hundreds of millions of dollars every time. Mm-hmm. So my thought process is that Spider-Man is drawing people to these theaters. Yes, we love Andrew Garfield, we love Tom Holland, we love Tobey, and seeing them all together made $1 billion, of course. But a different person could have been cast other than Tom Holland, and Spider-Man still would have been successful. That is not the case, in my opinion, for like a movie like Top Gun. Like, Tom Cruise is a different kind of star where his name belongs on the poster bigger than the title. Like, he is bigger than Maverick. And I don't think that you know, the draw to Captain America would necessarily, not that Chris Evans isn't fantastic, but he owes a big part of people showing up to that movie to pre-established content, comic books, shows, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that with a lot of things too, though. Like Harry Potter, tons of books on before the movies came out. You know, people had this experience with the story already going into it.
But then again, Daniel Radcliffe obviously is not the star that Tom Cruise is. So this speaks to the nature of the changing state of Hollywood and the changing concept of the movie star.
Is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's possible to argue that we've idolized movie stars way too much. You know, that we've treated them like they're the symbol of perfection and given them way too much credit to where it puts too much stress on them, especially child stars, and to where people put themselves down for idealizing these real humans. So I think idealizing the characters in a way makes more sense.
It's like a pendulum too, because like you're either not bigger than the character, and then maybe you get to see the character more and enjoy the character more because you're not sitting there thinking like, I'm watching this actor.
I'm always watching Dwayne Johnson if I'm watching.
That's what I was just going to bring up, is that like at a certain point you become bigger than even your career, and then all people see is you, the real person, not the character that you're trying to portray anymore. You know, so it's like kind of this balance of like, where do you draw the line? You know, and like what's beneficial. Something that I got from this podcast, or at least from what a lot of people were talking about on TikTok and stuff, is like, do these superhero actors have the same pull as these movie star actors did back in the day? You know, like if they're all dead now, you know, not actually dead, but if they're not as existent now, can these superhero actors still bring in big pulls to the box office? What do you think?
So the question is, if we don't have the same stars, can we still bring in the same thing with just the characters? Right,
because it seemed like in his interview, Quentin Tarantino is like, there's not that many movie stars anymore, you know, and like the only 2 that are left are working in my movies. Like, is it really like there's only 2 people that he could be working with to bring in a lot of attention to his movies and to bring in the most money possible and the most appraise possible? or is there more than that? And like these superhero roles that actors have portrayed, like they're still the actors and people still go watch them.
I think it's fair to say that to some degree, these superhero actors like Chris Evans, Tom Holland, Chris Hemsworth, like they were maybe found in a way by the superhero roles, but they are still that special talent. But I still come back to Tarantino's point that like, you know, like Chris Evans' other movies outside of Captain America, like how well are they really performing? Like I know a lot of people love Snowpiercer, but like that movie's not like staying in theaters the way that Top Gun Maverick is. You know, it's not doing anything like that.
Do you think that's because of the actor or just because of how much of his time was invested into these Marvel roles to where he just didn't have the time to go off and make these super high quality movies that are going to bring in hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well, look at Robert Downey Jr. even after he's retired. Like, the Doolittle movie was like a humongous flop. And if the same principle applied, you know, to his movie stardom outside of playing Tony Stark, then that movie would have been a success. And to your earlier question, I think that the characters are still large. I think that the actors serve to elevate them, which is a hugely important role. But I think if you switched out a different actor for Spider-Man, it's the difference between Spider-Man making $500 million and making $1 billion, which either way is it's like you're comparing huge success to humongous success. So I think the characters' properties are still like...
I think the casting of those roles, though, is very important. I mean,
still important. I agree.
500 compared to $1 billion is a big difference.
That's what I'm saying. It's important, but it's speaks less to the star power. Whereas like a perfect casting isn't as necessary if you know you're going to make $500 million bare minimum.
I think it also depends on the quality of the story and the marketing that goes around it too. You know, like at this point, everyone's heard of Marvel. Everyone knows that you can get a good story, fun laughs, some cool action and stuff. Like these other smaller projects or kind of one-off projects, they have to kind of rely on the story more and how it's presented. You know, like you have to get the audience interested in the movie before the movie comes out. So it kind of all comes down to marketing nowadays. And it's like, that's what he's saying is the problem, is that they have monopoly over everything, you know, to where it's hurting the movie industry, and it's hard for these other creatives to make movies. And like I think he mentioned in the interview too, is that in Marvel everyone's expecting this like lots of action and stuff that like doesn't necessarily move the plot forward, but opposed to like heavy dialogue scenes and stuff that's more in depth, or like analytical shots and stuff, you know, that like kind of play into the story and go a little bit deeper than like a surface level action movie. I
think that's something that Tom goes into more. Tom Segura, the comedian interviewer, because I know that Tarantino in the interview makes a specific point to say that he's not here to talk down other people's work or cheerlead other people's work. So he doesn't want to praise or insult other people's work. He's talking about the state of Hollywood and the representation of film. I don't think he specifically anywhere in the interview says anything negative about the films being bad or the acting being bad. It's just about, he's saying they're not movie stars in the same way that, you know, somebody was like a movie star from The Matrix, like from the 90s, like Keanu Reeves became a star with Speed and The Matrix and things like that.
Yeah, I think his definition of movie and cinema is just different than what Marvel is making, you know?
Yeah, because I think Marvel, they have their formula, and I think that but I also think Marvel's stepping outside of that formula a lot lately. And I think that if you don't watch their movies, that's not something you can give credit to. Even if like people are starting to not enjoy or complain about the changes, it is cultural diversity, a creative diversity, and those are things to praise in Marvel right now.
Yeah, and they talk, again, kind of going back to my last point, is in this podcast, they talk about how the audience is expecting something to always happen, you know, big flashy things. And I don't know if that's necessarily Marvel's doing or just how society is today, more so with social media. I think if you're going to point the finger at something or someone, it'd be social media, right? Kind of always giving us something new to where we can constantly scroll. If we're bored, we can go to the next thing, you know? And that we're just not patient viewers anymore, you know? So maybe Quentin Tarantino's style of movies just don't appeal to this time.
I mean, I still think that his movies, like,
in comparison to Marvel, I mean,
like it is different. The action is different, but he definitely has his fan base, and his movies are in no ways like failures. He's coming up on doing his 10th film, and like his gritty, like ultra violent, like snappy dialogue style, I think still really resonates with audiences. People go to see his movies, like he talks about in the interview, because it's a Quentin Tarantino film. Like, people go to see Marvel because it's a Marvel film. It's just drawing on a different audience. And I think when you watch the full, whatever, hour and a half long interview, you can see his point a lot more of what he's trying to say. I don't think it's necessarily super detrimental, super snobby, as some would have you believe, like at a glance. It might be a little bit gatekeeping of film, because like you said, he's like, I don't watch new films. He's like, I'm watching things on VHS. Like,
he came off at
he's disregarded the era.
a little bit snobby in a way.
Yeah.
But it's just his point of view. Like he's not trashing those people per se, like we've been talking about, but at the same time, he does kind of give off, or at least to me, this sense of like, he's a little better than that.
I will say that from watching his films, from judging him as a creative and not as a person, he is a genius, like, of film, of directing, of making movies, and of writing. I think that he is a genius in those aspects. And I know people have their complaints with him, whether it's things that he said or things that he's done, his obligatory feet shots in his movies, but his movies are fantastic. I mean, Inglourious Bastards, Pulp Fiction, literally Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Django Unchained, like, these are some of my favorite movies. So that's why I listened to the full interview, because I like both of them. I like Two Bears, One Cave. I've listened to that like 100 of the other episodes, and I love Quentin Tarantino's films. So that's why I'm not so quick to dismiss his opinions on these things, because I feel like he is somebody who knows what he's talking about. This is just a subjective opinion, so it's not fact or fiction.
Yeah, he makes a lot of good points, and even he said so himself, like, if these movies came out while he was 20, he'd probably love them.
And we are 20, so
yeah.
so we love them. I think that.
I mean, at this point, we grew up with them.
But do you think Marvel's hurting Hollywood? Do you think it's hurting maybe not even just Marvel, but do you think this concept of the sequel machine, the extended universe, do you think it's hurting the state of Hollywood, the state of creativity, or the state of film?
I don't know. I guess it depends on which side you look at it. I think in recent years, they probably saved the movie theater industry. I guess I kind of only go to the theater mainly for their movies. There's not that many other movies that I go to the theater for. And now, is that a problem? Maybe. I think it does make it a little bit harder for these smaller creatives, smaller studios or whatever to kind of break in and make things that gets their money back so they can do it again. But that's not to say that it hasn't been done. I think there's always been these big kind of franchises that are way more successful than the other, like Fast and Furious, The Matrix, going back to Star Wars. Like, there's a lot of other big franchises that kind of overshadow all these other little smaller studios and videos that are getting produced. And in terms of like breaking into the industry, in a way it's hard because it's super oversaturated, and then you also have these giants in Marvel producing these billion-dollar movies left and right. But at the same time, it's easier than ever to go out and make your own movie.
and then just post it online,
Right.
Yeah.
And get traction that way. I mean, how many YouTube stars are there now that are almost more popular than some movie stars out there?
I while you're talking about not having gone to see movies recently, I had to check to make sure that I had seen a few movies in theaters recently, which I have seen a few, probably not as much as I should have if I really want the industry to like explode, and I'm just one person obviously, but we saw The Woman King together recently. I saw Don't Worry Darling in theaters, and I saw Where the Crawdads Sing. So just thinking of the movies I've seen that like aren't superhero projects, because obviously we saw Black Adam, Black Panther, Multiverse of Madness, the Batman, all of the superhero movies that came out this year. That's the thing though, is that those movies are givens.
Right.
Like that's what we're discussing, is that those movies are automatic, like that everyone's going to go see them.
I don't think it's ruined anything because they're not going to be on top of the charts forever. I mean, I say that now. 10 years from now, 30
dynasty.
years from now, when we're doing our podcast, we're like, man, Aaron, you were wrong. Marvel's still at the top and there's no other studio on earth.
Disney's bought every studio and turned all the characters into like Marvel characters.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are fighting the Fantastic Four.
Fighting John Wick.
Have you seen Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny? It's an old YouTube video. I'll have to show you when it's over.
I have not.
Okay, I'll have to show you that. That's it. That's basically what we're describing. But
Do you think it's a problem? Do you think they're ruining cinema?
like I said, I think it's...
I feel like that's a bold statement.
Like I said, I think it's the audiences, and me included. Because
So you think you're ruining cinema?
I think ruining's a little harsh, but we're not in the creative era that we were in the 90s and early 2000s. Like I do see something special come out every once in a while. When I'm trying to look at recent movies here and see what truly unique, special, new concepts come out recently. One thing that I noticed on this list is a movie called Not Okay that I thought was like something special and interesting. It, I believe, went straight to Hulu. It was a Hulu original film with Zoe Deutsch, and it's unique, it's different, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I watched it when it first came out, and like that's the other part of it, is streaming doing so much to detract from going to theaters, and these studios posting their movies almost directly to streaming. Like we know Black Widow went straight to streaming, but some of these movies are coming out, a week after their theater run, they're going right to streaming.
So you haven't directly answered the question. Do you think this is ruining cinema?
I think that if I had to give one answer, the simple answer would be, in a way, yes. I think that cinema and films in general right now are kind of on the decline, but it's also like we talked, when I said Great Depression, it's kind of like the economy. I think it goes down and back up. There are periods where maybe there's not as many new ideas, or just not as many new ideas actually fully breaking through into the industry. And I'm looking on Google trying to find like I saw Bullet Train in theaters. That I thought was great and a ton of fun, unique, different, just an action movie. That I feel like is like one of the few examples I can find on this list. I'm looking at tons of movies here, like trying to find ones that I think are special and new and original. So I think that there's just not as much as there was. It's not as successful a time.
It's different because, like you mentioned streaming, there is more than there has ever been. The amount of movies that have come out in the last 2-3 years, I don't know the numbers exactly, but it has to be a exponentially amount more than it was in 2000s.
I think the average quality is diluted for that reason, because we're so what's the word I'm looking for?
But is that Marvel's fault? Like how we talk about all the time, how like, oh, we don't want these Marvel TV shows, we want them to invest time into a movie and put things into quality. What if these studios just put more time into making a better movie? They're putting out all of these, like you said, like subpar streaming movies out all the time. Like Netflix has put out a new movie or show like every single week over the past year. Like, what if they just put more time into making a better movie? Like, is it Marvel's fault or is it more so streaming's fault?
I think
it's more streaming's fault than Marvel, because Marvel has stayed away from the streaming portion of it for the most part.
I think Marvel kicked it off, but I don't think it's Marvel's fault. I think the introduction of the idea of the cinematic universe is where, and again, I ultimately place the blame on the audience, including myself. But the introduction of the cinematic universe is where studios saw that these things are more profitable than creative original ideas. Like, do you think if they pitched the script for The Prestige right now, it would get made?
I don't know.
I don't think The Prestige would get made and go to theaters now. Maybe because it's a Nolan movie. Maybe he could get it done because he's a special director.
2 really good actors in it.
But it depends, when do they get attached, you know?
If they get it right now?
They've probably got...
I think they're both pretty relevant.
No. I'm saying that you have to probably get the movie greenlit before they're attached to it. I mean, in some cases.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know if it's just not as good of a time for something to prosper. It's a better time to make Ghostbusters Afterlife than it is to make The Prestige.
I don't think that that's Marvel's fault. I think it's more so streaming.
I feel like you're saying it like you're contradicting me, but I keep saying that it's the audience and not Marvel.
Right, but the whole concept of this is Marvelization of Hollywood, you know, that Marvel is killing cinema.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the main problem is not Marvel killing cinema, it's that we just have so much volume going to streaming, and that's diluting cinema and killing the theater and box office sales.
Yeah, I'm here with you, and I'm agreeing with you in pretty much most senses. I think that us as an audience being lazy and not being willing to go to the theater because we've been presented with the ease of access and content from things like streaming, we only go and see things that are like we don't go for the theater experience. We only go for things like Marvel, maybe that are only going to be in theaters, and we got to see it soon. And that's on us.
To the theaters for things that I know I will enjoy.
Well, that's
I don't like taking a risk going to the theater.
That's the part that's in the economic sense of the world. Is right now, like, especially like for us too, for most people in America, you don't feel like you can risk $11-12 per person more, depending on where you live, to go and see something that you can't count on being good.
Right.
You know, and
I'd rather wait for it to come out on streaming
and watch it on your couch,
or come out on Amazon and I rent it for $5, split it with 3 friends, and it's like $1.50. You know, like especially a movie that I've never heard of, you know, or know nothing about.
Yeah, but speaking of watching things for free and enjoying them, we appreciate everyone that is listening and watching to our show. We are on pretty much all podcast platforms. We're on YouTube as well, and we post new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, and quite frequently we put out 3 episodes a week too, with a bonus episode sprinkled in there as well. So we love talking about these movie topics, show topics, talk about comic stuff as well. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We're like 150 subscribers on YouTube, which is awesome. I mean, we haven't started that long. We didn't start not that long ago, so it's cool to see
if you are
our stuff continually grow.
If you are one of our subscribers already, or if there anybody who has the time, I would really appreciate it if you would head over to Spotify and give us a 5-star rating on there.
Yeah, that'll help us out a lot. We don't have a lot of attention on the podcast platforms.
It'll help more people see the show, and it does a lot for us. So we appreciate everyone listening, but let's get back into talking about Marvelization.
All right, so in preparation for this episode, you wanted to do a draft of movie stars and kind of draft the biggest movie stars throughout their career, whatever time they're from, and we're each going to pick 5.
Yeah, the way we settled on it is that these actors and actresses, we're going to do 5 actors, 5 actresses separately. They're being picked based on their Hollywood draw and appeal, their Hollywood it factor, which is kind of that intangible factor that draws people to them, that makes them love them as a person. And I wanted these people to be people who are bigger than their characters, which is contrary to the argument that is being made about Marvel stars saying their characters are bigger than them. So this is about their movie stardom, not necessarily about, you know, how much money they might make, or who we personally have as our favorite actors, or who has the best acting ability, but about their movie star power.
All right. So we're doing 5 male, 5 female. Do you want to draft them all at the same time, or do you want to do 2 separate drafts?
Let's do 2 separate drafts.
All right, sounds good to me. I don't know if I have a coin around me.
I can do a virtual coin.
All right, sounds good. Do the lens cap.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Call it in the air. Go.
Heads.
Heads. You win.
If
So do you want to go first or second, though?
If I didn't win, I wouldn't have believed you. I can't see your screen.
Also, to explain just the concept of the draft really quickly, Aaron's going to pick whether he wants to go first or second. We're going to go back and forth drafting these actors, so he'll draft the first character if he decides to go first. I'll draft the second, and we're going to try to build the best team with the most movie star power. We're going to start with actors.
No snake draft, right?
Yeah, we'll just go back and forth.
One.
Yeah, well, I think with 2 people, a snake draft is just a draft.
No, you can a snake
Oh,
draft.
I would pick 2.
Right. That'd be, and then
let's do a one.
Okay, sounds good. We're going with actors first. I'm gonna go with, taking into consideration their whole career, I'm gonna go with Brad Pitt.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good pick. Aaron knows how much I love him. I'm gonna go.
I knew you were gonna take him if you.
That wasn't actually my first pick though. For my first pick, I am gonna go with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I knew that one was gonna be off the board by the time it was my turn. Let's see. I'm gonna go with. So I already got that one's gone. That one's gone. I'm gonna go with Tom Cruise.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That would have been my next pick if you didn't take it.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's go.
You're getting really good top tier picks. So for my second pick, I'm gonna go with. I think I can save him for later.
Ooh, is that risky?
It's super.
That
risky.
might be risky.
Don't try and scare me.
Oh man, you should probably pick it.
For my second pick, I'm gonna go with Samuel L. Jackson.
Ooh, good one. All right, I'm gonna go with. Man, there's so many good ones. I'm gonna go with Will Smith.
Oh, that was my third pick. How do you keep getting them? I moved. Okay, but I still have my original second pick. So for my third pick, I'm going to choose. I still think you're not going to pick this. I think I could get away with it, but for my third pick, I'm going Harrison Ford.
Ooh, nice. That's a good one. He was in a bunch of stuff. They're coming out with another Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. My next one. I'm gonna go with. Oh man, Johnny Depp.
That's a really good one. That is a star. That's a Hollywood hunk right there.
Literally can play any role. It's one of those actors where, yes, you can see that he's the actor playing it, but you're fully invested into the character that he's playing.
He's a chameleon.
Yeah. Your fourth pick, Andrew.
My fourth pick. I think I'm gonna have to go with. You already took Will Smith. All right. For my fourth actor pick.
Dun dun dun. Ooh, I'm gonna steal the pick that you don't take, I'm gonna have the better list.
I'm having to call like a lot of audibles on my list because Aaron's picking like a lot of people that I originally wanted to take.
How many people do I have that you wanted?
I think like all the people you picked are on my list somewhere because I did a top 10 to make sure I had extras in case you took them.
I did not have Harrison Ford on my list. He was one of the ones that I forgot about.
I didn't think that I could have saved him. I'm going to go with Tom Hanks.
Ooh.
Tom Hanks, my fourth pick.
Nice. Wrapping up my team, I'm going to pick...
The last pick is a hard one.
Yeah, because it's like all of these actors are so good. Which one do I like more? But at the same time, which one's more of a top actor? I'm kind of between 2 right now, and they were both in the same movie as well. So it's kind of hard to pick from. But I'm gonna go with Matt Damon.
That's a really good pick. All right, then Who's my list missing? I need to know what there's somebody I was thinking of, and I've forgot them already.
You had your list.
I
Just look at your list.
I didn't write this person down because I thought of them partway through the episode.
Oh, and you forgot about him?
For my 5th pick, I'm gonna go with Dwayne Johnson.
Nice. Dwayne Johnson. All right, so I have Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Will Smith, Johnny Depp, and Matt Damon to wrap up my top 5 influential actors.
I have Leonardo DiCaprio, Samuel L. Jackson, Harrison Ford, Tom Hanks, and Dwayne Johnson.
All right. Comment down below whose list you like better and think is a more accurate representation of the top 5 actors throughout all of Hollywood. Andrew, let's go with females. You want to go first since I went first on the male draft?
That sounds fair to me.
All right.
My number 1 pick, I'm going with Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, you suck. Oh, man. Okay. Scarlett.
Finally get to put you on the back pedal.
I know. What the heck, man? I'm going to go with Jennifer Lawrence.
That's a good pick. I didn't have her on my list. For my 2nd pick, I'm going to go with Sandra Bullock.
You suck. Oh, I just gave you Jennifer Lawrence on my little chart here. That's going up to mine. Who'd you pick?
Sandra Bullock.
That's a good one.
I agree.
She was in like everything.
Can't believe neither of us picked Bruce Willis for our top actors.
Maybe it's a generation thing. He was a little before us.
Yeah. I love Die Hard, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I love everything he's in.
All right. I'm going to go with... Man, okay.
Oh, I remembered who I forgot. I wanted to draft Keanu because I wanted to draft him for his resurgence because he's been successful in like multiple eras.
Yeah.
I wish I could switch out Dwayne Johnson for him because that's who I really wanted to remember and I could not think his name.
Just for that, my list is probably going to win. Let's see. I'm going to go with Angelina Jolie.
Oh, she's on my list. Good take. All right, I have for my 3rd pick, I'm going to pick Margot Robbie.
I had her on my list for sure. Gosh. I feel like this one's harder than the actors. You know? I feel like these women are like a lot closer together.
Yeah, I feel like some of the actors like stand apart, and there's a lot of iconic actresses. But I see what you're saying. They're all closer in stature, like.
Right. Margot Robbie for Andrew, and I'm gonna go with Anne Hathaway.
It's a really good pick.
Thank you.
She draws people to theaters.
She does
really
indeed.
well. You already got Angelina Jolie.
I do.
I don't know about this pick. I'm gonna go with for my 4th spot Emma Stone.
That was good. I got her on my list here. So, congratulations to you.
Snagged.
You got Emma Stone.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Emma Watson.
That's a good pick, and you still have one more left to go.
So do you.
All right,
For your last one, who's wrapping up your team here, Andrew?
my wrapping up my team with 5th place Salma Hayek.
Who?
Salma Hayek.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. All right.
You said who? I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope you know who Salma Hayek is.
I'm gonna go with someone who is a little bit more on the rising star. I'm gonna go with Zendaya.
Oh yeah, that's what Sierra said when I went over this conversation.
She brings in people.
Yeah,
She's got a fan base, that's for sure.
Yeah, I really only know her as MJ, and I haven't even seen Euphoria, but I know she's in that show. And then I know her as Rocky from Shake It Up. But
yeah,
so like that's the reason I didn't put her on my list, is because I don't know her as like eclectic. So let's talk about the criteria for our list and like what this means for the conversation.
Why don't you
we're
recap
having.
our female list, and then again, vote down below on the comments of which list best represents the top 5.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. If you're on Spotify, you can go and vote on our Instagram page. We'll have a TikTok for this right up. So my top 5 actresses for movie star power is Scarlett Johansson, Sandra Bullock, Margot Robbie, Emma Stone, and Salma Hayek.
Nice. And mine is Jennifer Lawrence, Angelina Jolie, Anne Hathaway, Emma Watson, and Zendaya.
And I believe so hear me out. I think I beat you.
In both of them.
I think it's a more of an argument with the actors, but I think with the actresses, like my top 2, even my top 3, Scarlett, Sandra Bullock, and Margot Robbie, huge stars. I think that's pretty tough to beat, and I got the first pick, so that helped me a lot.
My top 3 are pretty big too.
Who are your top 3 again?
Jennifer Lawrence, Angelina Jolie, and Anna Hathaway.
I can't believe you picked Jennifer Lawrence as a first pick though, because yes, she has draw, but so many times as a member of an ensemble cast. Scarlett Johansson, I think,
doesn't mean she's not a bad actor. Scarlett Johansson,
no, I think
best known for a side character.
I think she's a great actress, but we're not arguing how good they are at acting. It's their star power.
Scarlett Johansson's best known for the side character, Black Widow.
I think that Scarlett Johansson's also the highest paid actress, and she's in the top 10 highest paid actors.
Mostly from Marvel.
Mostly from Marvel, yes. But I think that her star power lends itself to other movies also. When she appears in another movie, you're that's Scarlett
she's
Johansson.
In Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, and I know you're saying she's a side character and stuff, but she's a main character in those movies.
I think that Scarlett outshines the names of her characters. You might see somebody see Jennifer Lawrence and call her Katniss.
She had the Hunger Games on her back.
But listen to what I'm saying about Hunger Games is that people will see her and call her Katniss. People see Scarlett and call her Scarlet. Even a movie like
they definitely call her Black Widow. 100%.
Even in a movie like Lucy,
100%.
In a movie like Lucy, where the movie is named Lucy, I will still call her Scarlet when I that. She has the star power to where she is bigger than her characters.
But I could argue the same thing that I still called Jennifer Lawrence. That's a bad argument.
You call her Jennifer when you see her when you see a poster for Hunger Games, you say there's Jennifer.
Jennifer Lawrence. I say her full name, just like you say any actor's or famous person's full name.
Scarlett's recognizable by her first name alone.
What does that have to do
she's the only Scarlett in
Hollywood that we're debating here?
She's the biggest star.
I think you're backpedaling because you realize that our lists are more even than you think they are.
I strongly believe that my list of actresses is stronger. That Scarlett is a star power in the name. I think that is a good argument. Denzel is Denzel, Scarlett is Scarlett. You don't have to say their full name because they're star power.
Okay. I don't know why knowing her first name makes her such a great actor when you're saying that my top person is known as a side character when so is she.
I'm not saying either of them are known as a side character. I think that she's overshadowed by her characters. I don't think that she's overshadowed by being Black Widow.
Interesting.
So the next what's the next part?
Has Scarlett Johansson won an Oscar?
But Oscars are the opposite of star power.
What are they?
They're critical acclaim, which we're talking
means that she's a good actor.
We're talking about. I already said we're not arguing who's the best actor. It's about It's about who's a better movie star. Does Scarlett Johansson have more of a Hollywood it factor than Jennifer Lawrence?
No, I think they're very close together. I don't think it's Scarlett's way up here and Jennifer is way down here. I don't think it's like that.
I think more people know.
I think maybe you recognize Scarlett more because you're a Marvel fan.
I think more people know Scarlett Johansson than know Jennifer Lawrence. This is turning into the Scarlett versus Jennifer Lawrence podcast. It
really is. Comment down below.
So part of my reasoning for picking my people on both lists was based on their ability to perform in different kinds of movies, actions, comedies, dramas, their abilities to bring audiences to all those different kind of movies, which is why I think Leonardo DiCaprio is the ultimate choice, because he stands in the top 10 box offices of all time, but he doesn't make the kind of movies that the other top 10 people make. If you look at Samuel Jackson's filmography, I think he's been in 65 movies. Leo's been in 30, and he's still close to him in terms of box office. And also Leo doesn't just make action movies.
Prestige of the movie and winning awards and all that stuff, having great ratings plays a role.
That's
that
not
it feeds you.
That's different than how. When did I say anything about ratings or
Because
or
when
awards?
I'm bringing up that Jennifer Lawrence won an Oscar, you're like, that doesn't count. That has no reasoning to go into our.
So let me
debate here.
explain. An Oscar does not equate in any way to the amount of people that went and saw the movie. Birdman is not like more successful in terms of Hollywood star power because it won an Oscar. What I'm talking about is when Leonardo DiCaprio makes different kind of movies, he makes darker movies, R-rated movies, dramatic movies, weird movies like The Aviator that still draw audiences to them despite them being outside of the box of the cultural acceptance of normal action movies. That relates back to how like he draws people to it, not him being a better actor or winning awards for those movies.
I think Leo is a strong pick for sure.
Yeah, I think he's, to me, the ultimate first pick, and I was super glad you didn't take him when you got first draft. But Brad Pitt is a really strong first pick as well.
I think Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, Johnny Depp all kind of rival Leo.
Yeah.
You know, like I think everything that you said towards Leo could also be said towards those three as well. Maybe not as high, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think that I agree with you. I don't think they do it as well. But I think Brad Pitt does all kinds of movies. I mean, he's done everything from Seven to like a pure action like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and they kill when he does them. But I think Leo is kind of like the guy that doesn't need to play by the rules. Like he doesn't need to take that role. He can pick and choose, and he chooses to do things that are outside the norm. Like he'll play a role like John Candy in Django Unchained, where he's like a hateable, disgusting, racist villain. And like people love him because he's Leonardo DiCaprio. If that's a different actor in that role with less star power, it's just a hateable person. It's maybe not like the audience doesn't rally around him as a character. You know, you love to see him die because it's Leonardo DiCaprio who did such a good job. And then Harrison Ford. I mean, what else do I need to say about him? He's the golden boy of like the 80s and 90s. You got The Fugitive, you got Han Solo, Indiana Jones.
The 80s were terrible movies. Didn't you listen to
it's
Quentin's
it's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Weren't you listening? Like,
but like, what American Graffiti, like all Harrison Ford, he was the guy. Like he even still is the guy. Like Blade Runner 2049, fans were so excited to see him come back for that. See him come back for Han Solo. Like he does sci-fi, he does dramatic, he does action, and he does it all well and brings audiences in. So what was your reasoning when you picked your list?
Well, going off your criteria, the star power, you know, Tom Cruise just brought in over $1 billion right after a pandemic. Like, that's not very easy to do, you know?
Yeah.
And then he also has the Mission Impossible series where each movie, maybe besides the second one, has gotten better and better and better and better. And they were all like good movies, you know? So like he keeps raising the level to each movie that he's doing, you know?
Yeah, I think that Tom Cruise is kind of, in some ways, like he's like the ultimate action star or ultimate movie star. I think from like two sides of like a different coin, like Leo is the best first pick and Tom Cruise is the best first pick. So I think it was really lucky that you swept him up second and didn't have to take him as your first pick, because he is like, he does his own stunts. He flies a helicopter in Mission Impossible Fallout. He is a huge star. People go to see Mission Impossible for Tom Cruise, not for Ethan Hunt. He is humongous.
Yeah. I picked Brad Pitt because everybody on earth knows who Brad Pitt is. You know, like anything that he touches, someone's going to know about pretty much. Will Smith, kind of the same thing. Maybe not as much right now just because of the slap, but at the same time, bad publicity is good publicity, you know, like.
I really wanted Will Smith for my list. He was going like next when you picked him, so.
I mean, he's been a star throughout his whole career, you know.
Yeah. Starting
with The Fresh Prince, starting with music, and then going into Bad Boys.
He's got some of the biggest number of iconic characters of any actor. I mean, you've got Men in Black, like you said, Legend. Fresh Prince, Independence Day, I Am Legend.
Like he has a lot of single movies that do really well, and then he's also attached to like franchises as well that have done really well. And
even now, like, continues to get Academy acclaim and continues to make huge blockbuster movies. Like he's not a has-been, you know, he remains at the forefront of pop culture even now. Yeah. And then for Matt Damon, kind of same thing. Everyone knows his name, and partially he's one of my favorite actors, so I had to throw him in there. The subjective aspect. Yep. Yeah, I have Matt Damon on my list a little further down, but like he's Jason Bourne. He makes some of my Good Will Hunting, some of my favorite movies of all time. So he's an interesting Hollywood star for sure, because like he started out writing with Ben Affleck making their own movie. So like he has a really interesting journey.
Which did very, very well, you know, and like that's how he got started, was himself.
That's like the American
really
dream story, which is kind of like the
everyone wants to do what he did.
That's the ideal version of a movie star, is going from nothing to something.
Right.
So like he represents that on your list.
Yeah. All right. Does that kind of wrap up this episode? This talk about the Marvelization of Hollywood, that movie stars are dead, you know, cinema is dying. Is there any other points or anything that you want to bring up before we sign off?
Well, let's see if I refuted my own point. How many Marvel stars are on my list and yours? I've got 2 superhero actors and 1 soon-to-be superhero actor, because Harrison Ford will be playing Red Hulk. And then my actresses, I have 2 superhero actors and Emma Stone, who was MJ. And then...
So you have more than I do.
They still make up under 50% of my list. And I really picked them...
So what point does that prove?
Well, it kind of proves that in a sense that these actors are still working right now, and they're working in Marvel. So it kind of proves contrary to my original point that these stars existed in their star power before, you know, Marvel even existed.
Yeah, so basically movie stars aren't dead. You know, like you can still have an actor or an actress bring in attention to a movie, you know, which was my point from the beginning. And I don't think it was not your point either, you know, like I think you were definitely a little more on Quentin Tarantino's side, but at the same time, like you understand the format of how things are going right now, you know.
I still feel like I am. I didn't get all my first picks from my list either, because you snapped some of them.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you like this podcast, please go give us a review on Spotify. That'll help us out a lot. Andrew, that's a wrap.